The information age, the bad news is that it's incredibly easy for them to spread lies. The good news is that it's also incredibly easy for us to organize. That's why it's been so easy for me to hook up with national movements like the World Can't Wait, even though our chapter in and of itself, they're all separate, but a part of a national organization, and we use a lot of communication. We had a chapter in Asheboro, North Carolina last fall that was literally organized out of one woman and a couple of her friends that got in contact with us, and just by hearing, I think it was through the USA Today ad that we ran last fall, and they just got things going with their friends. And I was talking earlier about standing on a street corner holding a sign. Just this past week, one of my friends had a sign that said impeach, and a guy pulled over and said, why? She said, what do you mean why? I said, why impeach? And she said, well, she started running down the list of reasons. He'd never heard of them. And so, honestly, standing on a corner with a sign that says impeach, maybe a website, worldcan'twait.org, or the After Downing Street website, people say, well, what's that about? They go home, type it in, and all of a sudden, you got contacts.
Thank you. There's another hand someplace else. Okay. Now, if I don't get the order correct, don't take it out on me. My heart's in the right place.
Okay, I'm Debbie Arneson. I live two places. I have a place here in Wadesboro, North Carolina, and I have another home in Alva, Florida. And I've been involved with some groups down in Florida, and the Code Pink down there just had a conference call last night. And that's a great way to get together, too, I think, is to have one of these conference calls, put that out on the internet to everybody. And anyway, I spoke to Wade Hampton from Military Families Speak Out, and he's reached out. Is he good? Oh, good. Okay, I was going to say, I'll give you his email address. He's very, very interested. He's sorry he couldn't be here tonight, but he can't be everywhere, and he had to work. So anyway, I do what I can wherever I can. I got a great big sign out in my car that says visualize peace, and I stood out in some street corners in Matthews over here, and you know, wherever I can get together. I'm really interested in doing this impeachment thing. I was up in Gainesville about a year and a half ago, and at the university they had a couple of professors that gave a workshop on impeachment. You know, the time has come. I've just had it. I've had it with the torture. I've been sending around a paper to sign against the torture that's being done out of North Carolina. So if anybody's interested in signing on that, that would be very helpful. I picked that up from the Code Pink gals in North Carolina here. So thank you.
Yeah, my question is for Reverend Barnett. I was interested in your, historically you've had a relationship with Sue Myrick. I know that it would be wonderful if you could influence her today. Have you tried to have dialogue with her?
I guess I should be ashamed. Sue Myrick went, you know, so far away from what I believed in. I just lost contact with her, hadn't touched bases with her. But since you brought it up, I will go and talk to her and see. I know what she's saying.
She owes that to you because she used your strong presence.
Yeah, and also
benefit.
Pat McCoy. Right. I'm sure she will, you know, afford me a conversation. And sometimes when people just go contrary to the way I think, I just sort of let them go and just leave them alone. But you know, since you brought that up, I do need to just start going back to people and talking to them. And yes, she's representing. I need to talk to her, and I'm glad you brought it up. And I promise you, I will call her, and I will set up a meeting.
Well, follow up with us and let us know.
Yeah. So the last time I talked to her was about the war in Nicaragua. She gave me an award a few years ago about the drug program.
Yeah, she makes her look good.
Right. Yeah. So now you're right. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention.
The politicians will use us if we allow them to do so.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yes.
Can I actually? I think I actually want to follow up to your question. I think it's important for us as we begin to seriously take on impeachment. One of the things that I have found out through our organizing are three things. The first thing is that a lot of the institutions that we count on have become institutionalized.
Yep.
So that's important to understand that this is even some of the more traditional ones, the ones that really worked well, particularly in the 60s, in the 70s, for different movements. So we have to understand that, because a lot of us want to go back to those same pieces, those same places, those same, sometimes the NAACP, some local chapters, sometimes churches, that were very effective in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, but now have become institutionalized and are only in the business of being in business. And so we have to, for our movement to deal with this war, impeachment, and torture, they're not able, we can't use those. The second thing is this, is that one of the most unfortunate things that we must deal with is that we must deal with a movement that is segregated sometimes by race and also by issue. And so our movement, we must find out to do the impeachment. It's amazing when I'm talking about impeachment, how those in the climate, or those in the healthcare, or those in the Katrina or immigration don't think that's their issue. And I'm saying if you get rid of that guy and that administration, then a lot of the other problems can be solved as well. So we must have a synergy within our movements. And then finally, and I'll say this again, we cannot only hold the members of Congress accountable, but we must also hold the movements who are with Congress as well. So, in the case of Move On and other pieces, using them for an example, but in some cases it's very real, who really cozied up with Congress. And then when it came time to hold Congress accountable, we must hold those organizations accountable as well. So we are supporting those organizations. We must say, if you are not going to fight like hell for us, or you're not going to fight against these politicians when it comes time, then we are going to hold you accountable by pulling out our resources. Let me close by saying this. A paradigm shift has happened. We don't have our institutions. We don't have sometimes Congress on our side. And sometimes the organizations that are for us, we don't have them. But the one thing that we do have is the people. It is evident by this full room. It is evident when I go around the country. So we must be creative now in recognizing that we must impeach this president, this vice president, but we must do it now, because if we don't do it now, it won't be done.
And I wanted to follow up on the Myrick question. I attended I think it's the 5th Congressional District Democratic Convention on behalf of Reverend Barber 2 Saturdays ago in Statesville. And there was 200 people there, almost all white. I came and presented the People's Agenda and talked about building a voter registration thing there. Virginia Fox is the representative from that district. And the main speaker at the district was the state senator from that area, who talked about impeachment the whole time, and 125 people were clapping at every line that he did. So what we have we have 3 women in North Carolina, all Republicans, Myrick, Fox, and Dole, who won because they were women. You know, there's a big, and we need to begin pressuring them. Grimm, that John Hewer's here, the grassroots impeachment movement that we work with out of Orange County, is targeting every congressional district and trying to set up organizers in each congressional district, but particularly in Walter Jones' district, a Republican who's against the war, and Coble's district in Greensboro, who claims to be against the war. And we want to push them to move that to the next logical step, which is impeachment. So I applaud people who begin to go into the lines then and take on these Republican Congress people who have to jump one way or the other, as David is saying.
Thank you.